How is everybody? Good, good. Milford, would you pray us in before we start?
And Father, thank you for the many blessings that you've given us. Lord, thank you for this Lord's Day and the opportunity to come together and worship you. We thank you in the little country for freedom worship as we choose, Lord. Pray as you be with leaders of this country, be with guidance, be with each and every member of this congregation, be with those that are teaching today and serving in any capacity. Lord, bless them in their abilities. Be with those that are on our sick list, Lord, those that are in need of prayers, you know who they are. Bless us in their day lives. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Last week we stopped and with the parables, the first one. This week we're going to be turning to Matthew 21, and we're going to go to 23, and we're going to go all the way through 22 and 14. And first of all, the best person I can apply this to is Mr. Jaggers, and it'll get us into our study. Yes. Yes, ma'am, I can. I'm sorry about that. We're on 141. Jesus is challenged and answers his accusers with three parables. And we're on the parable of the vine dresser. Around here, I know we barter. People know what bartering is. It's not really what goes on here, but it kind of is. The vine dresser. He had some land, so he let these dudes. Have you ever heard of anybody around here say, I'm going to let you, I'll lease my land out. You just give me some of the profits, the meat off of it. Does that happen anymore? Okay, a little bartering.
Well, sure. My mom, she does that, and they take care of the place and fertilize it and pay taxes.
I tell you what we did. Alice, Karen, she amazed me. When Allison was little, she was at a daycare. We had her at a daycare, and this woman, y'all know her. Her name was Myers. She ran the one in New Boston. She's from Sims. She goes, I need to get this place painted. I said, I tell you what, I'll do it if I think it was 6 months free daycare. And, that's the way people did back then. Those times have passed. I mean, I don't know. I'm not tooting my own horn. I said, here's a sense of me to dodge some daycare, guys. That stuff's eating me up. So I did that. But anyway, have you ever been to where they like this? We're going to talk about a guy that he built a big old trench and he put a wine press. I'm just trying to give us some kind of familiarity with what's going on here before we get into Matthew. I've seen one and didn't realize it. Do y'all know what a wine press is? Anybody? Exactly. It's what it says it is. Karen and I just decided to go to Altus, Arkansas. Has anybody ever heard of that? Way, way up there. And anyway, we went, and this whole family ran a winery. And dude, it's work. They all came. This is how some of the kids paid for their college, but they had these vats. They brought them in, and this was the cleanest room I ever saw. And it had a machine where they just squashed those grapes in this aluminum vat. And it was clean as anything that I've ever seen in a doctor's office. It was just pristine where they did it and made this stuff. And they all worked together as a family and did it. We're in Matthew 21, starting with 23. Let's get down to the wine press. Okay. We talked about the two sons. The wicked vine dressers. So in verse 33 we start in chapter 21. Here another parable. There was a certain landowner who planted a vineyard and set a hedge around it, dug a wine press in it, and built a tower. And he leased it to vine dressers. And I guess that's the ones that keeps the, like I was talking about. And they went into a far country. And when the vintage time drew near, he sent his servants to the vine dressers, that they might receive its fruit. And the vine dressers took his servants and beat one, killed one, and stoned another. Again he sent other servants, more than the first, and they did likewise to them. Then last of all, he sent his son to them, saying, they'll respect my son. But when the vine dressers saw the son, they said amongst themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him and seek his inheritance. So they took him and cast him out in the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, when the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those vine dressers? They said to him, he will destroy those wicked men miserably and lease his vineyard to other vine dressers who will render to him the fruits in their seasons. Jesus said to them, have you ever read in the scriptures, the stones which the builders rejected has come to the chief cornerstone? This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore, I say to you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a nation bearing the fruit of it. And whoever falls on this broken stone, whoever falls on this stone will be broken. But on whomever it falls, it will grind them to powder. Any comment on all that? These parables have the same message, in my opinion. They're about ungratefulness. And what does he say? Lukewarm. And we just talked about the son that said he wouldn't go, and then he repented and he went. The other one said he would go, and he didn't show up. So the message here is kind of like being lukewarm. And please correct me on this, anybody. He's referring to Israel. They rejected God several times. Isn't this how these vine dressers really did?
It's really sad because all the prophets could do was speak the word of God and then get hurt or killed for it.
Good analogy. Good analogy.
They couldn't do anything else. God told them what to say.
Exactly.
This also shows that you can't defeat God. His purpose is going to be carried out. And these people, he's using this as an example. You might try to destroy God's people, but it's not going to happen. He's going to come in and change you out, and somebody else is going to take over. And the church is going to come into existence. Really looking forward to this. Tell them.
In other words, it goes back, on this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. You can't destroy it.
Yeah, we're getting ready to get rid of the old law and bring in a new covenant.
The irony of it is it tells this parable describing what Israel did, basically.
There you go.
And then he says, what do you think they should do to that with those vine dressers? And they said, oh, they're going to destroy them. And they're going to find someone that will listen and will do what they're supposed to do. I mean, they actually answered the question right. And then he's about to tell them, hey, you're those guys. You're the guys who are going to kill the heir.
Yep.
Not so different than David, but they told him.
They kept just, right, exactly. And they just kept not wanting anything to do with the word. I mean, they just kept, the more he sent them out and the more he was trying, surely have y'all ever seen that situation? Well, surely they're not going to turn this down. The third time they went back in, they even got more adamant about it. Where they weren't just ugly to them, they killed them. I don't want nothing to do with this, is what the message really said in the way I read it. Is that basically right?
They're still trying to do that today. They're trying to destroy Christianity.
In this nation.
It's not going to happen.
I think that this refers, Kenneth, to us turning our back on God in this country.
Well, it's happened all along from the Israelite people ever since, and it's still going on. And it's going to be going on until he comes back again and fulfills this parable here.
That's exactly right.
Michael, when we become Christians, God dresses us too. He makes us holy. He gives us holiness. He
I agree wholeheartedly. I like what Tom said about prophets getting killed because they tried to tell them the truth.
All of this proves the patience and love of God. We wouldn't have put up with it.
That's true. He's trying to, he's in other words, he's giving them ample chances, right? Still is. He never gives up on us. Okay, we're starting in chapter 22 of Matthew. If people are, we're going to another parable. And let me tell you something, folks. I had trouble. The lady that comes and cleans our house on Friday, she was there. My daughter was there. And we all were there. And so this was eating me up so bad, I just put it on the table for discussion. And we, not literally, we were sitting at our kitchen table. So the lady stopped mopping the floor and she sat down and my daughter sat down and Karen sat down and we all had our take on what we're talking about here. Now the commentary, which Eddie Clower sold these commentaries, I didn't bring it this morning. They're hard to follow too. Let's say that you're sitting in your house or your apartment or whatever and there's a knock at the door. This is the only way I know how to start this parable. And this dude comes to the door and he says, okay, you've been invited to Washington, D.C., get your best duds on. The president, no, I'm not, it doesn't have to be who we got now. It might be somebody you don't like. But he's invited you to come. We're going to drive you from here to Dallas and put you on Air Force One. And there is a state dinner with several dignitaries. And he's invited you to come. He just a little old you. He wants you to come be part of this. Well, this next, and you're sitting there and saying, I don't want to go to that. Just tell him I'd rather sit here and watch hee-haw in the house or something. I don't want to go. I'm just a homebody. I don't going to go. What was it? How would he take that? He's got all this ready for you. He's got a limo and he's got the beast outside the door ready for you to get in and ride to the airport in and all this. And it's not just about who's in there as president. It's just about being able to go there. You're going to go to the White House. You're going to see the Oval and all of it. Well, what these people turned down in Matthew 22, starting in verse 1, is 1,000,000 times better than that they're turning down. So we're going to start reading there in chapter 1. And Jesus answered and spoke to them again in parables. And he said, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son. Now that's another thing that plays into this. Who's his son? And he sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding. And they were not willing to come. And again he sent out other servants, saying, tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and fattened calf are killed, and all things are ready, come to the wedding. Just like the invitation song says, all things are ready, come to the feast. But they made light of this and went their ways, one to his own farm, another to his own business. And the rest seized his servants and treated them spitefully and killed them. But when the king heard about it, he was furious. And he sent out his armies, destroyed those murders and burned up their cities. And then he said to the servants, the wedding is still ready, but those who are not invited were not worthy. Therefore, go into the highways, as many as you can find, and invite them to the wedding. So the servants went out into the highways and gathered together all whom they found, both bad and good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guest, he saw a man there who did not have on a wedding garment. So he said to them, friend, how do you come in here without a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, bind him hand and foot. This is even about the one that the jars were buried, and the dude went out and buried the jar in the ground. The same finish to this. Take him away and cast him in the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, which Jay's talked about that on Wednesday nights recently. For many are called, but few are chosen. Now that opens up everything to me. So I'm going to put that out on the floor. What is meant here by many are called, few are chosen? Any discussion about that?
The gospel calls everybody, but just a few gonna enter it. We're talking about few gonna be saved.
We did. That's exactly right. What's the chosen word? That threw me off. Does he just? Are you chosen and you can't fall away no matter what? That ain't what he means here. But do
That would be like the one that, that come in and didn't have on the wedding, the wedding attire.
there's a lot there. Do you think that was harsh? The dude he might have came in his shorts and his sandals and his Panama Jack T-shirt or something. You know,
I'll tell us on judgment day when we meet and say, Lord, Lord, he would say, depart, I know you not. There's a lot of people that think they're Christians that aren't.
I want you to go to Matthew 7:13 and 14 right now. That's where I was headed, Milford. You stole my thunder. No, but you're right on time. I think this last part of this directly refers you to this. And the lady that was working at our house that said, I think he's got the point. My daughter brought up another scripture that this enter by the gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go by. Because narrow is the gate, and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are a few that find it.
He doesn't allow you to come in just any old way you want to. You gotta follow him, love him, and keep his commandments. That's what he said.
You
That-
know, this guy wanted to show up at the wedding, but not do what it took to get prepared for it.
Right?
He wanted to benefit from it, but not do anything to get ready for it. And you know, my understanding is that in that day, a king would actually offer them wedding garments to wear.
That's what I wanted to get at right there.
So this guy was, let's say that is true, he would have been offered the right thing to wear, but he didn't take the time to do it. He was just trying to benefit from the party.
In other words, you can't do it halfway is what you're saying.
If you're gonna be a Christian, you have to commit to it and do what it takes to be a Christian and not just expect benefits. That
I think one thing, yes, there's something that we ought to miss in this. They're talking about a king.
Right.
In those days, the king was all powerful for that his kingdom. Okay? So what he said go. Okay? If you did do what he said, you see the example here. But we serve a king, and that's what we fail to realize. Our God is so forgiving to us because we don't look at him as a king. We look at him as a God. But most people don't look at him as a king. And, like the White House, if you went to the White House and had my dad in church, most presidents would see you outside the gate.
Well, I kind of think that's what happened Friday a little bit.
So, the thing is that we, even when we say prayer, when we are addressing our God, okay, he is the king over everything. And we need to go to him as our God, the king of everything. And if we do anything less than that, he knows it. This is an example of that.
So this doesn't have anything to do with not wearing a suit to church, right? I got a laugh out of Jay.
Well, really, talks here about coming to the wedding feast and the bride apparel. You know, we're the bride of Christ. And in order for us to go to the wedding, we're gonna have to be washed in the blood of Christ. And if we're not, and it talks about there's gonna be some that's deceiving comes in, trying to take you unaware. Those are the people that he's talking about that's gonna be cast out, those that are not coming in the way the Lord wants us to come in. And in order to go to that wedding feast, we're gonna have to be obedient to the gospel.
That's true. It's exactly true.
God's not looking at the containers, he's looking at the contents.
Exactly. He's not looking at the outer, is he? Okay, I've got a few points here that I was able to pull up. The invited guests initially represents the Jewish people who were first offered the opportunity to be part of God's kingdom but refused due to their rejection of Jesus. The servants were messengers sent to remind the guests to come to the feast, often facing rejection and mistreatment, I guess, along the way. The street people represent and the Gentiles who are invited to join the feast when the original guest refused. My daughter, I'm not going to take credit for this, she went to Acts chapter 10 with Cornelius. And I thought that was a great example. And it is, because everybody's worthy. The wedding garment represents a life of righteousness and commitment to God necessary to be a part of the kingdom. The guest without a wedding garment represents someone who appears to be part of the kingdom but lacks true commitment, like you were talking about, Kenneth, and is therefore excluded. The main message: while everyone is invited to the kingdom of heaven, there is a requirement to actively accept and live according to God's will to be truly part of it. So that pretty much sums it up. Any other comment on that with the wedding, the parable of the wedding feast?
Are you fixing to go to the sheepfold too?
Do what?
Are you fixing to go to the sheepfold story?
It doesn't cover it, but we can.
Well, this story reminds me of the story about all the sheep and the shepherd, and they're scattered, and some of them were trying to come in through another way besides the gate.
Right.
And that's what's happening here.
They're exactly right. Any other comment? That's a good comment, Mary. That's great. Y'all always bring up something that I hadn't thought of. I'm trying to, staying with this is wrapping me up enough. I'm telling you, I had to go back and ask Karen's opinion on this and get down and do some, because I didn't know if I had the right grip on it or not. Okay, let's go to Matthew 22. And if I can switch back there to my Bible. Matthew 22, and we're picking up, this is 142 in our curriculum, our guide. It's not really a curriculum. But we're talking about something that we're all familiar with, and it's that time right now. Do the Pharisees ever quit giving Jesus a ration of grief? They never let him up, do they? Okay, we start in verse 15. Then the Pharisees went and plotted how they might entangle him. Here we go again. They got in trouble with this last week as we were discussing. And they had to get in the huddle, like I said, and have a little talk about it. Entangle him in his talk. And they sent to him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you are true, and you teach the way of God in truth. Nor do you, we know you are true, and you teach the way of God in truth. Nor do you care about anyone, for you do not regard the person of men. Okay, are they playing a little patronization there with him? A little psychology here? I think they are. They think they're smart enough to pump him up a little bit here. Tell us, therefore, what do you think? Have you ever had anybody say that? I'm going to stop right there. Well, what do you think about this? I don't care what it is. How does that make you feel when they go, so what do you think about this?
If you ask you something spiritual, just tell them it don't matter what I think. I say, go see what God's word has to say about it.
I questioned, I did something like that, and I probably shouldn't have done it, but there, right here at Maud at the bait shop years ago, there was a certain person running for office, and I saw him. I said, well, why do you want to do this? I don't know what made me want to do it, but he gave me a 1.5-page answer. And I was just curious. Okay, And we go back and said, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Well, they're asking, is that the, Jay, am I using the term again, a rhetorical question right there? But Jesus perceived their wickedness and said, why do you test me, you hypocrites? Show me the tax money. So they brought him a denarii. And he said to them, whose image and inscription is this? And they said to him, Caesar's. And he said to them, render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things of God's. When they heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. Any comment? Why did they marvel? What?
This is somewhat of a different challenge. You know, previously they challenged him on religious things, but here it seems like they're challenging him on civil matters.
The law of the land.
Lord, we can't get him on religion, we'll get him on civil, we'll get him on a civil violation.
There you go. That's
They were trying everything.
Jews didn't feel like they had any obligation to the Roman Empire. You know, they didn't like paying taxes.
that's why they couldn't stand Zacchaeus. And I mean, you carried that name, and that's how. And this is not politics. This is just what's going on of the day. How did we all feel when they got rid of all these IRS people? Was anybody that other than a certain few just tickled to death? There might have been some good people in that bunch. We don't know that, and I have to tell myself that. So we have to watch before we make the quote blanket statement in some cases. And I'm the world's worst at it, so I'm not telling you that I'm pure as the driven snow on that. Any other comment about that at the end? I thought it was just basically following the laws of the land, but that last statement, render to Caesar and then render to God the things of God. Can anybody elaborate on that?
Technically, everything is God.
That's a huge statement, though, Sam. Go ahead.
I said technically everything is God. Biblically, everything is God. It belongs to God. And, you know, it tells us that everything on the earth will be devoured by fire. So, gold doesn't mean anything other than men.
Exactly.
Whose image do we look like? We're made in the image of God.
Exactly right.
Render ourselves to him.
You know, this question really wasn't, they weren't asking him if it was okay to pay taxes. When they said lawful, they were talking about whether it was right before God, you know.
Thank you.
And, you know, Peter, and I'm not forgiving.
So you think this was a lot more?
It says, fear God and honor the king. You know, Peter said, fear God and honor the king or the emperor. It's somewhere in 1 Peter somewhere. I'll find it if you need to. But I mean, paying taxes was just something you did. But fearing God was something you had to do.
So we really wasn't talking about taxes.
They were just trying to trap him.
Okay.
I mean, for them to say it's lawful to pay taxes, everybody knew the answer to that. They were going to pay taxes. They were asking a trick question, trying to catch him. Of course, he never got tricked.
If we go through a rough time where we feel like people are against us, and I wished I would have had the wherewithal when I was going through rough times in my life, maybe I'll do it again because I'm not dead yet. To go here and read this stuff when you really think somebody's trying to get one in on you and how you're supposed to act. This is the policy. This is the guide right here. If more of us read this and kept it in our minds, we'd probably do a lot better. And I'm talking about me. Relationships. This would help you immensely with your relationships. And you could skate by just like he skated by without. Go ahead.
You can go back and look at the apostles when they were teaching the gospel and they carried them before the tribune and they told them, man, you go out there and don't you teach us anymore. What did he tell them? Do I might go, amen?
That said it right here, didn't it, Kenneth? Give to God, and if God overrides what Caesar wants, you go with God first. So that right there. And that might cost us a lot too. And it should. Okay, we're moving on into 23 and we're going through 33. It doesn't get any easier. We're going back to revisiting what Jay talked about on Wednesday night in our past class about the resurrection. The same day the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him and asked him, and I've heard it said since I've been coming here many a time that the Sadducees didn't believe in his resurrection. Well, there's proof of it. Saying, Teacher, Moses said that if a man dies, having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up the offspring for his brother. Now there were with us 7 brothers. The first died. After he died and had married, having no offspring, he left his wife to the brother. Likewise the second, and also the third, even to the 7th. Last of all, the woman dies also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife of the 7 will she be? Because they're all there now. They're in the afterlife. For they all had her. And Jesus answered and said to them, You are mistaken, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God. For the resurrection, they neither marry or given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven. But concerning the resurrection of the dead, have you not spoken, or have you not read what is spoken to you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but to the living. And when the multitudes heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. Any comment on all of that? Jay has been saying on Wednesday night there will be no marriage in heaven. And then this the key, unless I'm wrong, isn't that what he's trying to get across here?
It's interesting, even though they didn't believe in the resurrection, at the end of his statement here, he quotes scripture to them. In other words, they knew the scripture, they didn't believe in the resurrection, but they knew the scripture. So he used scripture to answer the question.
Are you saying that the Sadducees kind of they believe what they wanted to believe about it?
I'm not sure of the background, but they were religious Jews,
Yeah.
you know, so they believed and had the scriptures, and so when he used the scriptures in verse 32 there,
Right.
and the reference I get, I think that says that comes from Exodus chapter 3.
You know, they always like to pride themselves in being the children of Abraham. And he's telling them, hey, you're not priding yourself in a dead body. He's still alive. He's alive now, even though he's dead here on earth. Letting them know there's going to be a resurrection. There's going to be life after death. And he's kind of showing them this here, and they should have been glad to hear it.
Exactly. They should have rejoiced in that and took it with a good heart. Jay, what verse in Exodus 3 is that? I'm there now.
Let me look for you here. Verse 6 and verse 15.
Okay. If y'all want to get there, I'm going to give you time. I'm going to read that. And there's something coming up in the study we need to go to Psalms 112 about, but I'll wait till it comes up from that. It's an important subject. Verse 6, you said?
6 and 15.
Okay. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God.
Point is, they're still alive.
You said 15 also, didn't you?
I think 15 just repeats what you just read.
It did. All right, so he taught them about resurrection. He taught them about heaven. So now Jesus questions the Pharisees. We're going to go back, staying in Matthew, and go to 22 and 41. Give everybody time to get there, and me also. While the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, saying, "What do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he?" And they said to him, "He is the son of David." And he said to them, "How then does David in the Spirit call him Lord, saying, Then the Lord said to my Lord, Sit at my right hand till I will make your enemies my footstool, your footstool. If David then calls him Lord, how is he his son?" And no one was able to answer him a word, nor from that day or did anyone dare question him anymore. Now, I brought that up, Dan, for that reason. Did they quit right here? Did they just, because that's what it says to me. They never really gave up. But they, at this point, before it intensifies, and it's getting close to the end, I think, of his life.
They never quit, because even after he was dead, they didn't quit.
No, they didn't.
Remember when, was it Mary, the two Marys went to the tomb to see,
And-
and there was an angel sitting on the rock?
And I'm not bringing that up to dispute you, because
No, I know.
I'm not understanding this.
Those two guards were there,
That's right.
and they were scared.
Scared to death.
Well, they ran back, and what did their leaders tell them? What did the Pharisees tell them? Well, here's some money.
Yeah.
Keep your mouth shut. So they never
Pay,
did. I mean, maybe, that maybe not as, maybe there's a point to where, I just don't know, but to me, it's like they never
they never did.
did.
And they didn't believe it even after Christ rose and the apostles on Acts 2:38. There were still some that, I'm not doing this.
And I think it was more of a, greed. When I say greed, it's money, power, and everything will blind you to a lot of obvious things. And I truly believe that's the case here with these Pharisees and these guys, that they knew if they accepted it, their lifestyle was gone.
Exactly right. It's kind of like the rich young ruler, wasn't it?
And they just didn't want to, I don't, we can speculate all day long, but do they believe him? You have to ask the Lord when we get there. But it's hard for them not to believe, especially when the guards told them, "Hey, we've seen it." And they
Right.
still refused to accept it.
Here's what a commentary says about it. And I know it needs to, but I have to go back sometimes. Matthew 21 through 46 signifies a moment where Jesus cleverly confronts the Pharisees by asking them whose son the Messiah is, knowing they should answer the son of David. Then uses Psalms, there it is, Dave. Can somebody look that up for me? Psalms 110 to point out that David calls the Messiah Lord. I can get over in a minute, or we don't have to, but if somebody gets it, they can read it. Thus highlighting Jesus' divinity and effectively silencing the Pharisees by showing that the Messiah is both David's descendant and superior to him. This passage often interpreted as the key moment in understanding Jesus' claim to be God. Jesus asked the Pharisees a seemingly simple question about the Messiah's lineage, knowing that they would answer that he is the son of David. How did he know that? He just knew him, didn't he? The Psalm, okay, I got it here. That's the Psalm citation. Jesus then quotes Psalm 110, where David refers to the Messiah as his Lord. which creates a paradox as a son cannot be Lord over his father. The implication by highlighting this contradiction, Jesus is asserting his divine nature, showing that he is not only a descendant of David, but also superior to him. The effect of all this, we've already read it, the Pharisees are left speechless and unable to challenge Jesus any further.
You know, you kind of shut him down, but every time I read that, I think about another instance. I'm thinking it's similar. Matthew 16, when Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do you say that I am?" And they answered in a completely different way. Even though the Pharisees probably saw the same things. They saw all the miracles. They saw Jesus' ministry. But two groups of people answered in completely different ways.
They did.
One group didn't want to lose their power, and the other group, the disciples, they realized that he was the power.
Any other comment? So next week we're on denouncing hypocrisy in Matthew 23, and that's 146 in that outline out there. That I hope is still out there. I've enjoyed y'all. Y'all been great. Y'all made the class easy for me. Thank you very much. Thank you. I need somebody deeper in the word than me sitting right there.
Dan, when's your
Thursday, April 3rd.
so about a month?
He told me, he got off the phone with me, he called me later, said, do not catch up this month. I will tear your shoulder completely. He knows what I was gonna tell you.
Oh, get everything done. You're gonna try to get everything done.
Yeah, sound like that's what I said.
So is it a rotator cuff that you?
Yes, what it is, a rotator cuff, it's almost completely severed. It's just a little sprout. It's been like that long enough, that my bone underneath my arm has developed good muscle. And it's rubbing what left,
Oh, yeah.
and they're afraid that's gonna go through. And then I have to repair that, shape it on, and then they got to attach my arm, drop down and drill a hole through it.
But hey, they do that surgery. Yeah, my those guys, that's the only thing they do. You know, I had a friend in Arkadelphia that he pretty much only did knees. And he had plenty of business because people mess their knees up all the time.
I wish I could say, hey, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I started to say that. I sure did. Sure, absolutely, I understand.
They were kind of mad at me last year. I was like, look, I've done this a long time.
That's right.
Then, yeah, I saw your name on the list. I laughed and said, well, what's going to do too?
That's it.
Oh, God.
Hey, buddy. Hi. minding your own business, ain't you? That's right.
He had a long day yesterday.